After the climax, how do we continue our mission? How's everyone doing today? Welcome to my channel. I do educational videos on a number of different subjects, and we'll be going through those methodically as the year goes on. Right now, we're kind of in the beginning unit where we're covering everything that we can on the tree of life. And this is the diagram of the tree of life. This is an ancient diagram. It goes way back to at least ancient Egypt, and it is commonly used as really like a map of our faculties of consciousness, or map of our consciousness in general. And it has 10 different circles that are called spheres, numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It also has a thing here called the abyss, and it has a 0 above the tree. So a total of 12 different categories there. There are also 22 different lines that are connecting those. That is important in certain other aspects of the tree, and it's more important in the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is basically the same diagram as the tree of life, but they calibrate things a little bit differently. So my expertise is in the tree of life, and so if you know things about the Kabbalah, you can leave them in the comments or whatever. I've studied some things about Kabbalah, but nothing's really resonated with me. And the approach that Ra over at the Osero Set Society in his books Untitled, several volumes, those really resonated with me. So that's how I got started with Tree of Life, and I attempted to branch it out into different areas and to take the stuff that's in the Untitled books and to kind of spread it out a little bit more widely, because Untitled is really for kind of people that are in his sect. And but I think that Tree of Life can, especially in this in our Great Awakening period here, that this is something that needs to be spread out among more than just the Afrocentric Egyptologists that are drawn to Osero Set Society. Okay, so now each one of these 12 different categories represents a different faculty of consciousness, or a different ability of our consciousness. And we start out with the 10th sphere, which is our wild animal consciousness, like our ability to survive. Survival of the fittest. This is the law of the jungle, kill or be killed, the state of nature, fight or flight response. And it's also the state of the body, in that in all different respects. It can be the defilements of the body or the health of the body. Then as we begin to grow up, we encounter this 9th sphere. This is our domestic consciousness, really the first few years of our lives when we're mainly at home, where we are highly receptive to influences from our parents or whoever's raising us or whoever's around there. And we basically, are soaking everything up like a sponge. We're watching what people are doing, and we are trying to imitate them. And then we practice, and then we memorize what they do. And so what they do is passed down to us, or we pass it down to ourselves from them through this process of imitating and practicing that imitation over and over again until we get it, until we've memorized it. Okay, now the major weakness here at the night sphere is that it is blind. So you will imitate what you see regardless of whether it's good or bad. Like, so if someone in your household is shooting drugs or whatever, then you're gonna kind of like develop that habit. I mean, you won't have the needle with you or anything, but you will pick up abusive habits as well as good habits from your caregivers. And this night sphere doesn't only apply to toddlers and little kids. It applies to older people too, but it just means that they've kind of moved back down into this part of the tree for that portion. So you can still be using these night sphere imitative powers even when you're a teenager or older. Some people in life spend their whole life in the night sphere, where they're just imitating what they see, out there. So the main point that I'm just making is that this night sphere is blind. And same with the A sphere. The A sphere is where the night sphere is about the domestic world or domestic sphere. The A sphere is about the real world or the public world, where we go out into public, into schools and churches and just recreation centers and Cub Scouts or whatever, and we learn all of the conventional wisdom, all of the different expert opinions that are out there, the things that everybody knows, the common sense. And they tell us, these are the things you're supposed to believe in. We're being told this by the experts, the institutions, the institutions of higher learning, the doctors with the lab coats on, the pundits on the television. They're all telling us this is how it is, and, take it or leave it. And if you believe what they say, then you can eventually find yourself being admitted into the A sphere as a junior member. You'll find yourself admitted to the college that you wanted to get into, and if you continue to follow the directions, you'll get good grades at that college, and you'll graduate, and you'll get a good job, and eventually you'll be one of these people in the A sphere that's telling other people what they're supposed to believe. The problem is that regardless of whether it's you or somebody else who's telling other people what to believe, if it's not true, then it's not really very helpful. And at the A sphere, it's only true if it's convenient. The main thing for the people at the A sphere who are, propagating the different things that we're supposed to be believing in, is that it's convenient for them. We tell you this because that's the best way to have you under control. The people that are in this A sphere are, see themselves as elitists. They see themselves as being better than you or me. And, people who eventually get accepted into this, they learn to see themselves that way also. And so they just want to have you under control. I used to think a little bit more positively about the A sphere, but at this point, not really. And but the main faculties that we have here are our belief systems and our logical faculty. And so our logical faculty is this left brain idea of basically putting different things into separate categories, and then using reasoning to come up with conclusions about things. But there are so many different fallacies about reasoning that you know, it's a dubious prospect with circular reasoning, when you have faulty input in your reasoning, and especially with rationalization, where you can come up with various excuses to justify your point of view. And that's the rationalization is where people end up kind of accepting the asphere when it doesn't really jibe with their own experience about things. And so they end up convincing themselves that they should be in the asphere when their own experience says otherwise. And they end up with this kind of tension that they're involved in that really will eat you up inside eventually. It'll get you to the point where you can't really look in the mirror because you're two different people. And this is where the personality is, personality being our combination of different lower selves, different person is through sound. And, this whole side here is about sound. And this is, the logical reasoning faculty. And so, we end up kind of having split ourselves up into multiple different personalities depending on who we're supposed to be pleasing. What asphere are we in today? Are we going to the doctor? Are we going to the school? Are we going to, are we going to court? We have to be almost like a chameleon to try to fit into all these different roles that they have us trying to shoehorn ourselves into. Okay, so the seventh sphere, where the eighth sphere is about the real world, the seventh sphere is about the imaginary world. So the seventh sphere is for people who smelled a rat when they got into the eighth sphere, and they're like, hey, you know what, this isn't really true, because the eighth sphere is a trickster. And the eighth sphere is telling us things that we're supposed to believe, but they don't correspond to my own experience. So I imagine something different. I imagine alterations to the eighth sphere. So they use the imagination, they use the inspiration, they use intuition, creativity, and pleasure principle to come up with artistic endeavors or inventive endeavors to make this better, to propose alternatives to this. Now, at the seventh sphere, you also are given a little bit of impetus to start climbing to the higher parts of the tree, where the sixth sphere is about our free will faculty. So free will is the sixth sphere. This is the center of the tree. This is where we're located. Free will has two main components: our ability to pay attention, and our ability to make decisions. Now, we're here, but we're generally paying attention to the eighth and ninth and 10th spheres. So our attention is focused on these lower aspects of the tree. So it seems like we're located down here, but really this is just what we're attending. We're really always located here at the sixth sphere with our attention. But the other, and we focus here because this is what we grew up with. This is our comfort zone. We grew up in this area, and it's just comfortable to spend our time focusing our attention here. I mean, we can also focus our attention here as well. But with our newfound free will, we have the ability to take the other aspect of free will, which is our ability to make decisions, and to decide to turn our backs on these lower aspects of the tree and to actually pay attention to the higher aspects of the tree. And that's the beginning of our spiritual path, where we can turn around and try to and begin to try to understand and develop our higher aspects. This is a daunting prospect because these in general aren't well fleshed out. We have to flesh them out ourselves. And so we end up kind of staring into the void, staring into nothingness, where we don't really have much to go by. So we start where we should start. We should start at the fifth sphere, the next one. And the fifth sphere is our sense of justice. This is our karma. Karma, as you sow, so shall you reap. What comes around goes around. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When karma is really based on violence and waste and violation. So when we act to violate another, we get violated in return. When we act violently toward another, we get a violent response in return. If we're paying attention here at the sixth sphere, the one of the two hallmarks of free will, then we can recognize that, I'm not getting very good feedback on my actions. Maybe if I cleaned up my actions a little bit, my feedback would be a little bit better. So we can use the fifth sphere as a teacher for us to help us to figure out what is optimal behavior and what is not. And same thing with the fourth sphere to a certain extent. The fourth sphere is part of the fifth sphere, where the fifth sphere is the enforcement of the natural law. The fourth sphere is the articulation of the natural law. So this is our ability to figure out how everything works. And it's usually all written up in cosmologies, in holy books, and theories of everything. Who is God? Where did we come from? What are we doing here? What is the purpose of it all? How does it all fit together? What are we supposed to be doing? And all of those different questions. And we, by kind of using comparative cosmology, by looking at many different types of cosmologies, we can kind of transcend this, decree or commandment form of law to this higher understanding of law, which is based on, not on decree, but based on observation, experimentation, and experience, and measurement, things that are far more objective. And also then the fourth sphere is our universal faculty. So it's also the universal law, universal language, and universal love. These are things that are all innate within us, and that we can find the truth of these things within us. But when we use intuition, tutoring ourselves from within, it is best to have, this comparative cosmology as kind of a background, because our intuition is only as good as kind of the level of knowledge that we have in us to start with. And so we can intuit our own cosmology, but it's like we stand on the shoulders of what came before. And so, you can't go back and, if you're, go back to caveman times and be able to intuit, how to build a rocket ship. But if you went back, if you were a student of physics and engineering, then, and you understood like the history of propulsion and all of that, then perhaps you could intuit how to build a rocket ship, because you're already starting from a high enough level. Our intuition is only going to take us, a couple more steps. You can't just start from nothing and intuit everything. You have to start from a good vantage point before your intuition can really help you take off. Now, at the seventh sphere, the intuition is really about kind of right and wrong, or good and evil, but on just a very basic level. So this is something that we can intuit with no real starting point. But when we're intuiting up here, we have to have something to go by first before our intuition can really help us. Okay, then we go up to the abyss here. This is our psychic powers, magnetic powers, and this is our ability to recognize and to act upon omens, and then also our ability to, those two things, our ability to recognize omens, and then our ability to act upon omens. And the omens are really the magnetic charge aspect. This is our highly coincidental things that stick out in your mind that's like, well, that's really weird. Recurring numbers, recurring themes, recurring people in our lives. And then 3, 2, and 1 at the top of the tree are our divine faculties within. 3 is our omnipotence, all-powerful. And this has to do with sound, again, and synchronized sound, mantra, and other things like that. This also corresponds to our divine mission, carrying out. That's the omnipotence. And then this second sphere is omniscience, all-knowing, or wisdom. This has to do with our ability to solve all problems, not only our own, but problems of the world. And we can tune into this through going very deep into non-thinking, being able to set aside our thoughts and be able to be silent in our mind, and to not get caught up in content. If we can't do that, because that is a very tall order, we can also access this through the oracle from the 6th sphere. The oracle is at the 2nd sphere. We're at the 6th sphere paying attention to the oracle. So the oracle is a chance process that's calibrated to answer particular questions that you have about things. Okay, but the main way to get there is through our own work, spiritual work, and being able to stay off the content of our mind and to go further and deeper into our mind. And at the very corner, or the very core, or center of our mind, is this first sphere, omnipresence, all present, all at once. And this is at the very center. At the 2nd sphere, we're seeing the image of our higher self. At the 1st sphere, we're being our higher self. And what we recognize at the higher self is that everything is the same at its very center. My very center is the same as yours, and the same as everybody else's. So we're all unified in that 1st sphere. Then the 0 sphere above the tree is the mystery or nothingness of the universe. It's part of the creator, but not part of the universe. So this is only indirectly, applicable to the universe, indirectly applicable to, accessible to us. Okay, now that's the kind of the beginner aspect of the tree. And to take it one step deeper is basically to fractalize it. So you take the whole tree, shrink it down, and apply it to each sphere. So you break down each sphere into its 12 separate categories. So the 10th sphere has a 10th aspect, and a 9th aspect, and an 8th aspect, and a 7th aspect, and so on. So the 10th sphere has 12 different aspects. The 9th sphere has 12 different aspects. So you end up with a total of 144 different aspects. And I refer to those as the stages of life: consciousness, history, and spirituality. And I've compiled all those into a list that you can get from me for free if you click the link in the description. And that'll help you to just play along at home, because that's how I do the last quarter of each one of these broadcasts, is by focusing on one particular stage there of the 144. Today we're focused on number 102. And number 102 corresponds to the 3rd sphere. So this is our omnipotence, our mission, and this is our that we tap into through sound. And we're looking at the fifth aspect, or the 5th fractal of that 3rd sphere. The 5th sphere being about karma. This is about really the most relevant is the two horizons, where, at the sixth sphere, you learn to face your own fears. At the fifth sphere, you are, you're facing your fears all day long. And that's kind of, the fifth sphere is called Heru Kahudi, which means Heru of two horizons. So Heru is the hero of the sixth sphere, where you're able to face up to your own fears. But at the fifth sphere, it's Heru of two horizons, meaning Heru in the morning all the way to Heru at night. So the sixth sphere is generally Heru, just a one-shot deal. And that's kind of what's going on here, but it's with our mission. So our mission is planned out for a one-shot deal, but then you also have a mission that goes beyond that, that's for your whole life. And so number 102, it's called Even with or without resources. Anything humanly possible with or without resources. Stage number 102 is about the power to perform our impossible mission even under adverse conditions. Mission for two horizons, for specific events that we planned for, but also unplanned events that happen every day. The odds are stacked against us, but we can still triumph even on an off day, even on an odd day, even in a bad month. I didn't have my game of A, but I made the best of it anyway. Use discipline to overcome limitations. Symbolically, balance the crook and the flail. Use the discipline of learning to work with our weak spots. We'll make them stronger, thereby transcending our circadian rhythms and our planetary hours, and succeeding even when the timing isn't perfect, and then transferring that to our mission. Not our day, not just the right time, but that's okay. Bad timing can be sidestepped. See it as an opportunity to work on and minimize our natal weaknesses, so we are not so vulnerable to it. The omnipotence of spiritual power cannot be offered if we will misuse it. It cannot be used for primarily personal purposes, only for a transcendent mission. Begin to transcend personhood, to expand mission. Wake up out of atrophy. Wake up faculties we were not using. Use mantra to activate occult attraction of the resources to achieve the goal. And learn to overcome great obstructions, great obstacles through steadfast striving. Mission for two horizons. Not just for specific events that we plan for, but for every day. All right, that is number 102, the fifth fractal of the third sphere. Anything humanly possible with or without resources. Okay, so now number 101, the one right before that, which is the sixth fractal of the fifth sphere, is just called anything humanly possible. Okay, so I don't believe we've covered that yet, or maybe we have, but this goes along with number 101, which is anything humanly possible. This is now the next step of that, which is anything humanly possible, even if the resources are not available. At the sixth fractal of the third sphere, it's kind of like all the stars are lined up. It's your day in the sun. It's your time to shine. And you put all your training toward this time to accomplish this goal. But here at the fifth sphere, it's like you're trying to accomplish this goal even though it's not your day. and even though the timing is all wrong and you don't have the resources available, but you can overcome that. So that's kind of the difference between the 6th fractal of the 3rd sphere and the 5th fractal of the 3rd sphere. Okay, well, thank you for hanging on till the end there. And you can click the link in the description to get that list of the 144 fractal faculties. You can also hit the like button, share the video with others, subscribe to the channel. You can donate to the channel through Cash App or Venmo listed in the description. Mainly, please come back tomorrow and I will be doing another video on another one of the 144 fractal faculties, along with an introduction to the tree of life. Okay, thanks.